we get our new manager, and then eventually we kind of start warming up to each other. And as we warmed up to each other, the comments started to roll in. And then she started making comments in the store about our customers. So she would be like, oh, we get a lot of Black shoppers here. They don't really buy. Oh, Black people are really loud, but you're not loud like them. You're different. You're really different. Like, you're not what I expected from a Black woman or for a Black girl. And I realized that the more comfortable she got with me, the more things she would kind of spew out. I got triggered. There's this part of me that's like, I'm going to jump over this counter and knock her out. But there's another part that's like, girl, it's a job. She doesn't get it. She doesn't understand. I'm not going to say exactly what I said, but I definitely put out some of the stereotypes that we as Black people have for them. I remember the beginning of it was, hey, we have some thoughts on your people too.
Oh.
And I just rolled from there.
Have you ever found yourself code switching around white people or people of a different race to make you more palatable to them? Have you found yourself in a situation where white people or people of another race have found it comfortable to say things to you that are inappropriate, but for some reason they think they can say those things to you? And you're thinking to yourself, did I make them feel comfortable to do or say those things? Have you ever had someone approach you about your hair? Is it real? Is it yours? And feel comfortable saying that to you? Have you had those things? Have you ever dealt with friendships in the workplace? That's a touchy, interesting subject when it comes to Black women. Do you have friendships at work? Have you had friendships at work? Have you been betrayed by friends at work? These are all things we're going to talk about today on the Coffee No Cream podcast. My name is Erin Braxton, your host. Here on Coffee No Cream, we are unapologetically dedicated to Black women, where we like to share what I call coffee no cream moments, those things that happen to us Black women just because we are Black. I have an amazing guest today. I told you I would keep bringing in the good ones. And this is a good one. We have Nadine Foster. Nadine is a new friend of mine. We met recently, very recently, on a girls' trip in Cancun. Mutual friend of ours was celebrating a birthday, and we had the most amazing time. I don't even traditionally like Cancun, and I know I don't love it, or I didn't love it because I hadn't been with the right people. But this time it was the right people. I went with the right girls. We had an amazing time. I was jumping off rocks. I was cave swimming. I was skinny dipping. I was doing the most in Cancun. Amazing time. But anyway, when I met Nadine, I instantly knew that she was going to be a great guest for the show. She's in retail. She's been in retail working for some amazing brands for many, many years, but she's also a great conversationalist. So we do talk about things like code switching. We talk about hair. We talk about people saying things to us like, oh, you're so pretty for a Black girl, or you're pretty for a dark-skinned Black girl. We talk about that. We talk about friendships in the workplace. Should or shouldn't we? We talk about things like that. We talk about angry and aggressive labeling. We talk about that. And it's really just a fun conversation. Nadine's going to share with us one of her coffee no cream moments, and it leads us down a path. So we kind of get all over the place, but I think you guys will enjoy the conversation. So before we get started, I would love for you to please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, the podcast, wherever you're listening or watching. Please subscribe. My goal with this podcast is to uplift and encourage Black women everywhere to be stronger and help them navigate how to deal with these microaggressions, biases, the racism that they encounter as Black women. And I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, so I will see you over there. Welcome, Nadine. How are you today?
I am good, Erin. How are you doing?
Good. I'm so excited to have you here. Those who are listening just heard me do a little intro bio for Nadine. But Nadine, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do every day?
All right, so I am what I like to call a retail junkie. So I've been in retail since I was like probably 13. I went to school for fashion merchandising and marketing, so I just like dove back into as much as possible. I work as a manager at a major company, not gonna say their name because they don't pay me to advertise them, but
I
I've been
know
doing
that's
that for
right.
years. Right? They don't have to pay me to advertise. But also
No,
on the
no.
side, I am an entrepreneur. So I've started multiple business and that title I call serial entrepreneur. So I've started my recent one, which was a candle business. So I create soy wax candles that are Caribbean inspired. Company name is House of Foster. And then, I mean, I am a motivated speaker. I speak to a lot of different women on wellness, rebranding, just anything to support women in rebuilding their confidence, business status in any way that I can.
We love it. Okay, so you are my first guest who has is going to talk about the retail sector. All right. Now we know there is there are many coffee no cream moments in that sector. So for those of you who are watching us for the first time, here on Coffee No Cream, we share what I like to call coffee no cream moments, those moments that happen to us Black women in
Mm.
business or even in life because we are Black women. And I'm so excited for Nadine to be here with us and share with us one of her coffee no cream moments because I know she's got a ton because we kind of talked about it. But I'm going to turn it over to Nadine and let her tell us about one of her coffee no cream moments, and then we're just going to see where the conversation takes us because this is a great conversationalist we have here today. So Nadine, tell us one of your coffee no cream moments.
All right. So, like I said, I've been in retail since I was like 13. It was something that I loved doing, like, and I love doing. It wasn't something where I was failed career and I have no other job skills or anything like that. Like, I actually chose to be in retail. And so when I got in, like, the first thing I was like, fashion, I'm going to get to be around like all this clothing. I'm going to dress like this supermodel every day. And the first job I got was at a local mall, right? Like, so I mean, we kind of just pat that down. Definitely humbling. But job I got was at a local mall. It was for a local business. I was hired by the owner. And I got to actually like open the store in this mall. So, jumping in, I got to see the process, everything. And I was on cloud nine.
You mean
Like,
like open it from the beginning, like
yes.
open it from it was a new store.
Brand new store to
Nice.
the
Okay.
time to Ontario because they were located out of Montreal. So they were opening their first store. And so when I got there, I was like opening boxes, like dust, like cleaning down shelves. Like I was in there. I got hired before the manager had gotten hired. So the owner was still looking for a manager. I
Oh,
was still
wow.
very new, so I wasn't manager material at the time. And so, I started with me and a friend, me and a girlfriend of mine, both of us young Black girls into fashion. Now we're working at this store. So we're both excited. And so we get our new manager. She was from, I don't know if like your viewers really know, but I'll kind of say some places. So she's from Caledon, which is a predominantly white area. And so her coming to
In
Brampton,
Canada.
yes, in Canada, yes. Let me make that very clear. So
Yeah.
Caledon, predominantly white, and now she's moving to Brampton, which is like a cultural melting pot. And so she already had a cultural shock when she was coming in, and she was really quiet in the beginning. And I just took it as like she doesn't really know anybody here. She was like a university student. I was like fresh out of high school, and I was taking a year off. So I was kind of like in between trying to figure out what I wanted to do officially. And so I was kind of like, okay, you know what? She doesn't know anyone. That's fine. I was trying to be nice to her, but she definitely stepped into the role as a manager. She definitely exerted who she was and who we were going to be. And I was like, hey, whatever. I love retail. I don't care. I don't care. I get to work in this store. And so I love that. Like it happened for a while. And then eventually we kind of started warming up to each other. And as we warmed up to each other, the comments started to roll in. And the first comment that she had made, which I didn't take it as anything at the time, because we've all had moments with certain things. She was like, I'm the only white girl in my classroom. She's like, I'm the only white girl in my class. And she's like, it's just so weird. There's no other white girls in my class. And I was like, okay, like, well, it happens. There's been times where I've been the only black girl in a room in a space. So I was just like, okay, like, and then from there she'd
All the
make
time.
comments. Right, exactly. But that's why I never really took it as anything either, because I was like, I can announce it, but what does that really mean? Right? It doesn't change the fact that I'm gonna be in this class. So I was like, okay, whatever. And then she would make comments like, they like to speak their language a lot, and I can't understand, and that shouldn't be allowed. Now, again, a cultural melting pot. So we had a lot of East Indian. We have a lot of East Indian in Brampton. And so at this point, she was referring to them. She was like, they talk a lot in their language. Like, it's just not fair. I can't understand them. And I was like, okay, again, what am I going to say to this? Like, it is what it is. I'm not in your class, girl. Like, I don't know how you're going to deal with that. And then she started making comments in the store about our customers. So she would be like, "Oh, we get a lot of black shoppers here, and they don't really buy, right?" And it triggered a little bit, but I was like, "We are also in a school district area. Like, there's high schools all over the place. There's a university. Like, they're just walking through the mall. It is what it is, right?" Oh,
Yeah.
black people are really loud, but you're not loud like them. I'm not.
Whoa.
I'm not loud like them. And I was like, okay. You're different. You're really different. Like, you're not what I expected from a black woman or for a black girl, right? I think there was a time where she made a comment about my complexion, like me being very pretty as a dark skinned girl, not for, but as a dark skinned girl, I'm very pretty. And I was like, okay. And so it started mounting, right? And I realized that the more comfortable she got with me, the more things she would kind of spew out. And I was young. So at the time, I was giving her the benefit of the doubt. I was like, she's just expressing what she's observing. It's not that big of a deal. Leave it alone. But we came to a halt. We came to a pass. We had a few young ladies come into the store, three black girls after school, high school girls. Everyone knows high school kids are loud. They're talking, they're excited. It's a Friday. They're probably, planning their weekend. And they came with their backpacks, right? And so she who was in the back, she came like rushing to the front and she's just like, hey, 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 like, do you see those girls over there? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, you got to watch them. You got to keep an eye on them. And so I was like, okay, like, so I went over and I asked them, did they need help with anything? They told me they were fine. They want to try on some stuff. She was like, no, 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 these girls are here for something. And I was like, okay, all right. I asked them if they need a fitting room. I did what I was supposed to do. Right. And she's like, no, I need you to be there with them. I need to be on them. Now, at this point, there's other customers in the store. It's just me and her. And her focus was just on those three black girls, right? And they
Right.
knew it. They knew something was off. They felt it. They ended up leaving. They didn't purchase anything. Later on in that night, she came to me about it, and she was just pretty much like, and this is years ago, you guys. So this is like, I want to say almost 20 years ago. So I don't remember verbatim what she had said to me, but it was pretty much around the fact that like those girls were going to steal. Right. And she was like, I don't understand. Why can't they be like you? Like, you're so different than those girls. Like, I don't get it. Why do they have to come in and steal? And I, I got triggered. I got triggered in so many different ways because I remember being a teenager in the stores and having someone follow me and thinking, is it because I'm black?
So you say you were triggered, and I just want to roll it back because I can very much identify with this whole thing, as one of the only black kids in my school from age 6 to I think high school. It became more um I was used to being around these same white kids since I was 6 years old,
Hmm.
right? And when they started busing kids in from the inner city, we had more of black kids. And, I've heard that before. Like, you're different. You're
Yeah.
not like them. And I don't even think at the time, and I don't even know if I'm embarrassed, maybe a little embarrassed to say at the time, I wasn't totally offended because I knew what they meant.
Yeah.
I knew what that meant. Um, I know what it is to have things said to you. Um, and I know what it means to have things said to you and you just I don't know what I'm trying to say. So let me just go into, okay, so how are you feeling in that time? And then maybe I'll get my thoughts together on it because I'm digging way back.
No, honestly, you're hitting it right on the nail. Like I was predominantly I was around anything but black. So I
Right.
was raised around a lot of white kids, a lot of Indian kids, a lot of Filipino, Asian. So there wasn't a lot of black kids. And so when I did switch over to schools where it's predominantly black, I was told I was different. I sound different. I talk different. My hair, everything was different except for my complexion. Like that was literally the only thing they would match up. And so and maybe I don't know if the same term is used in the States, but like I was an Oreo for many years. I was
Me
told
too. I was an
you're
Oreo. Yes, I was.
okay. So
Yes, I
yeah, I
was.
100%. I get it.
It
And
made
so
it to Canada too. Like,
yeah, we have Oreos in Canada apparently. So, and I took it. Like I just took it for what it was. I was also raised with a Caribbean mom who was really big on appearances and don't let people talk about you when you go out there. So she kept me up in a specific way. And I
right.
think we talked about this when we were away. Like, my mom did put me on in regular clothing as a kid, right? I was always dressed up,
Me
right?
too.
So I faced that already. But I never had another like a white person say it to me. I was very much used to hearing it from another black person, from my own people,
Sure.
right? And I just took it for whatever it was. But when it was a white person in a professional environment, I didn't know if this was a conversation that was okay. I didn't know if I said something about if I was going to lose my job. Like there were so many things I was coming up against, and I was being triggered, right?
Yeah.
And so at those moments when she's saying it, I'm just kind of like, there's this part of me that's like, I'm going to jump over this counter and knock her out. But there's another part that's like, girl, it's a job. She doesn't get it. She doesn't understand. And I'm giving her again this benefit of a doubt. And I'm just listening to her say these things. Right. And trying to hold myself together. And it's a lot of pressure for a young woman to be taking all that on and not knowing who you can go to.
You
Right.
know, what you're saying, it is pressure, right? And I think too, 20 years ago, or when this happened, is a difference than when it
Hmm.
happens now because, you know, the whole idea, I believe back then, at least it is here in the States, it was in the States, was like assimilation, right? So if you could speak proper English and, be given the opportunity to raise yourself up to be able to compete with these white kids or white people, that was like the goal, right? So if you were being singled out as different or you're not like them, do we take it as an insult as much back then? I don't know that I did. um
Hmm.
I was like, I love the fact, even still to this day, that I can get on the phone and call somebody and they don't know who they're talking to, right? They think they're talking to, Susie, Johnson, little white girl or white woman. I love that, right? But back
Yeah.
then, I mean, you know what they're doing, but like I'm interested because you're a little bit older than when the first time it happened to me, and then you talk too about like being that dark skin and
Hmm.
them saying, you're pretty. I've had friends. I have one in particular I can remember right now. We're still friends. If I reminded her she said that, she'd probably be like, "Oh, I didn't say that." I'm like, "Yeah,
Didn't
you
say
did.
it.
Yeah, you
And
did."
that too, even like the fact that like if I'm saying to you that I had this experience with you, and then you literally are like gaslighting me into believing
Mm-hmm.
that it never happened, right?
Yeah.
I become like overly sensitive now. And so there's so much heaviness to even speaking my truth while it's happening to me within my community. And now I'm seeing it happening on the outside, like this goes right into what I was saying before. Like, well, I would like to bring into this actually. We do code switch a lot, right? We do
Right.
code switch, right? And that's one of the things that I realized at that time. I did that wasn't the name for it back then, but I started to code switch. I started to, when I was around, my black peers, I knew what I needed to say, how to act, how to, how to walk, how to do my neck if I wanted them to accept me, right?
Sure,
And then when I
sure.
was around the others, I brought that back so that I
Right,
wouldn't be a part of the stereotype, right?
right.
Um, and that whole situation with this manager in particular, I realized later on that that was a part of the code switching, right? So, even when she was talking to me, that part inside of me that was rising up was the natural part. And I do have a right to speak on, if I feel uncomfortable with what you're saying. But
Yeah.
the code switching part was like, no, you got to play that role. You
So did
can't.
you play the role? Okay, so you didn't jump across the counter and
No.
smack the you know what out of her. Did you, as a younger person, did you correct her? Or if you didn't, did you feel like you couldn't at that time? Because I know how you feel now. I mean, we're super
Yeah.
grown, right?
Yes. So at the time, I didn't smack her. No, I
Right.
didn't. But and I'm gonna say in the moment I thought I was correcting her, but I definitely attacked. I verbally attacked.
What'd you say? What'd you do?
I'm not gonna say exactly what I said, but I definitely put out some of the stereotypes that we as Black people have for them.
So
Eh,
verbally, you just got her corrected.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember the beginning of it was, hey, we have some thoughts on your people too.
Oh.
And I just rolled from there. And so I didn't lose my job. I will say I
Right.
did not lose my job. Me and her at one point, I believe, was building a friendship. So
Okay.
and that's just like when I got to this point, it was because I was hearing it so much. Like I went hiking on her family property. We went camping together. We were going partying. Like we were doing things together. And so I was giving her the benefit of the doubt because I was also building a relationship with this person.
Right.
And then it hit me like, this cannot happen. And so when I said what I was saying, I don't think I was necessarily saying it to teach her or anything. I think I was really getting my lick back at this point because
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
you've been saying this way too long now. Like you need to be put straight. And so I said what I had to say. But then from there, my relationship with her pulled way back.
Yeah.
And at the time I was sad. I really was because
Yeah.
I again, like outside of all that, I was like, hey, like we're having a great time. Like I don't, if you could just move this one part,
Right.
and when I was saying what I was saying, maybe in my head I felt like, well, if I say something, this might change something there. But what it did was it highlighted exactly who she was, right?
Mm,
Whatever she was saying wasn't just experience, it's her belief system. She looked at us
absolutely.
and she was like, you're loud, you're aggressive, but you are different. You're different. Somehow you're a special unicorn of these people, right? And the fact that she felt so comfortable in making these comments in my space,
Right.
my awareness now is so different because I don't allow just foolish conversation in my space now. But back then I was like, holy, like my code switching was so on point that this woman forgot I was Black. She-
Did she forget or did she just get comfortable?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I think, wow, and this is a conversation I had in I believe it was episode 5 with Aaron Norman, and we were just talking about education and you
Mhm.
were trying to educate her, and I know Black women are particularly tired of trying to educate people on us and what they should and shouldn't be saying, or our culture and things like that. You took it as an opportunity to, I guess, educate her, but like you said, get your lick back, and it didn't
Yeah.
go over well. But that could have been um the circumstance of being young.
Mhm.
We're young. Like, I mean, I think about the way I got people told and just cut them out of my life completely
Yep.
when I was younger. But, so it's sad because, you think and it's sad when you realize, I think in any area, but especially in this way. And I've had this happen when I look back on what I thought were friendships with people whom I worked with. When you look back and you,
Mhm.
realize, oh, we're not friends.
Friends.
We're not friends. You know, um, they would say stuff to you, and you're just like, you're not cool. And I've had that happen. So you told her you get your lick back, and her response is what though?
She was like, I didn't know you felt that way.
Uh-huh.
She was like, I didn't know you felt that way. And then she reverted to being my boss. Like, so it was pretty much now the power role, like, that power play where it was like, okay, well, I need you to clean the store.
Right.
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 And so that conversation ended. We didn't hang out again. We didn't go anywhere again. We never brought up the topic again. He knew that I wanted to move up in the store. I did eventually become an assistant manager at the store. But she let me know that she was never leaving her management position. And so I would have to either go to another location, which at the
Uh-huh.
time we had just opened up one more location in Toronto,
Uh-huh.
or I'd have to find another job.
Yeah.
Um, I went to the other location and I supported the opening for it. And it was again a moment where I was just like, this is not for me.
Right.
Um, this is not for me. And so I decided to move on. I stayed in retail though. I moved into a bigger company, which funny enough, that experience resurfaced again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think even in that one, like I'll kind of give a brief with that one because
Or
it's like it was even now, like when I think about it, I was like, oh my God, girl, you had yourself in some positions. Like what was happening? There was no one there to protect you. You just kind of went with whatever was happening and being thrown at you. But when I went for the interview for the other job that I wanted, the other store, I knew what the presentation of what the women look like in that store. And now things are different. Like way back in retail before, they had a certain expectation of how you looked, right? And I was working for a company, like there was no jeans, there was no t-shirts. Like we were going to work wearing heels and like fitted bodycon dresses, like we were getting ready to go to a club. Like that's
right.
what we look like, right?
Right.
And so I knew this. And so I had like the big curly hair and I did myself all up. And I went to go and meet with the manager. And she wasn't actually available. It ended up being the district. And he was like, you're gorgeous. And I remember it was this older white man and he held my hand. He started rubbing on my hand. He was like, you are just a gorgeous young lady. And I was like, okay. And I'm trying to like give him more information about myself,
The
you
old
know.
white men.
At this point, I had gotten into the Academy of Design and Technology. So I'm going to school for fashion merchandising. So I'm just like trying to let them know, like, I'm coming with skill sets and, I'm really selling myself. And he just kept on telling me how beautiful I was, how beautiful my skin was, my hair, my eyes. And the compliments just kept being thrown at me. And then he says to me, I really want you to meet one of the CEOs. And I was like, oh, wow, like step up for me. And so the next day I come and I meet with them. And I remember I wore this sparkly, nothing you should be wearing at an interview, but at the time, retail, that's all it was. I wore this sparkly dress
Uh,
and he was like, I told you about her. Look at her. She's gorgeous. She's absolutely beautiful. And he just kept going, right? And so
uh,
he was the CEO, he was like, have you modeled? Like he was just asking me stuff. And I was just like, oh, like, and I had like when I was younger. So I was like, yeah, I have modeled and whatnot. And he's like, yeah, I think he'd be a perfect fit. Didn't tell me what my role was. Okay. I had no idea what I was being hired for, but they were just fascinated with my looks. And then when I got into the store, I was the token black girl. Like I
of,
really was. There was no other black girls in the store. Everyone was very tall and model-esque, but like I realized at that point they were filling that space. And going forward, anything that I did, I pretty much got the hand rub. Oh, don't worry your pretty little head. Don't. It was very much in that direction.
that is really interesting.
Yeah.
I've never had, I mean, I never worked in retail, but I feel like I was more harshly critiqued in any position that I've had because I was black and because maybe darker skinned. So
Yeah.
did you feel in that situation? I want to go back to this whole code switching,
Hmm.
um, how it plays out and how you feel that that is an issue, if it is at all, or how that comes up today for
Hmm.
you, because code switching is real. Like we yeah, it's code switching. I haven't heard that term in a while, but it's really just like I always say, we have different faces,
Yeah.
people have their single girlfriend face, they have their married face, they have their work face, they have, their when everything just drops. But yeah, it's total code switching. I have a friend who's very fascinated by my ability to code switch. And my mother always was very nervous about me going out with my girlfriend, my best friend when we were in high school, because I was raised in the suburbs and I couldn't
Hmm.
code switch. Like she could code switch. So she always felt like I was going to get messed with because I couldn't make that change. I've learned to, and then it just becomes, it's very cultural. It's just part of your family and who you gravitate to as friends. But do you feel that you're still doing that? I think I know the answer to that, but do you feel like this is a big thing that you're dealing with now in retail, like back in the day?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
100%. Like definitely 100%. Like you said, code switching was something I never knew about. So when I was saying it, for like when I was doing it, I was just like, you got to play the role. You just
Hmm.
got to play the role. You got to know what to do, when to do it, how to act, like act right. Like that
You
was it.
got
You
to
got to
know
know
your
it.
audience.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And even with my other Black coworkers that I had, we kind of would like bind together and be like, girl, just do what you got to do to move up to the next role. I had some really great Black women that I worked with. They were like, if I move, you move, right? Just got to
Right.
act right. Just act right, Nadine. Like, and I'd be like, all right, cool. What I got to do? You smile when you got to smile, like let that roll off your back because they're not going to hold you back from the next step. And so I did that for a long time. But what started to hurt me more so was that I was building like actual, um, like skills. I had skills. I had a right to be in the spaces that I was, regardless of how I spoke or what I wore or how I did my hair. Like I legit had a right to be in that space, right? But I never felt like I was enough. I
Why?
just well, because now, like, it's like this part of me, this part of my identity that probably drove me to be able to have this skill set that was my strength. I can't show it in the same way. I can't communicate the way I would normally communicate. I can't express myself the way I would like to express myself because this person is used to seeing me talk this way or walk this way or wear certain kind of clothes, right? And it definitely contributed to my imposter syndrome. Like, and
When
it
you say this
connected to
part of your identity, though, you mean like your culture, the real Nadine, not the the code switcher.
Yeah, like so for example, like in that situation back then when I was younger, I didn't speak up. I didn't, right? And for many years I didn't speak up. But anyone who knew me outside of work knows I have a voice,
Right.
right? And so if I was to say to them like this happened at work, they're like, "So girl, you didn't say nothing? Like you just let that happen?" And I was like, "Girl, like I can't be one of those Black girls." Like
Right.
literally, I would say
Ooh.
that. I can't be
Mm-hmm.
that Black girl. I don't want to be
Yeah.
the angry Black girl at work, right? Hair wise, right? The same thing. Like I wouldn't wear braids. I wouldn't wear braids a lot, right? And braids. I love how it looks on me. I love
Yeah.
the freedom it comes with. I'm like, I don't have to hold my hair in the morning. What are you saying? Right?
Right.
And I was like, they like me with my straight hair. They don't like me with my natural hair. The attention that I get is so different.
Yeah.
And so I found myself bound to that code switching, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it isn't always necessary. There's times where you do need to know when and how you're going to deal with certain things. But I
Sure.
think it's unfair that your actual skills are being determined by that factor. Do you know what I mean? Like we should be able to bring in our potential, bring in our talent, and that should be able to be seen regardless of the package it's being wrapped in.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to be any less Black. Um,
Right. I
you
think that
know?
seems like it's improving. I used to have my little short little Halle Berry pixie when I left working in 2007 was the last time I worked for a company like that. And let me see, 5 years later, I went natural. But I would have
Mhm.
never probably felt comfortable going natural and going through the growing pains of going natural, working for someone. I just don't think so. And me and one of my boss at the time, we were kind of cracking up because this girl who was in the position before me, she went natural, and this is horrible. And I don't know, it wasn't exactly the best natural looking
Mm.
situation. And the client would be like, "Oh my God, we love it. We love your hair." And we were just like, "What?" You know what I'm saying? And that could have been self-hate on our end.
And
I don't know. I still look back on it. It wasn't, you know, it was cool though, but now it would have been cool. It's cool, it's more acceptable. But
yeah.
we just weren't ready to go there because we had been so brainwashed, right? And still are so brainwashed. Like I have these braids in my hair right now, and one of my friends was like, "Oh, Aaron, I love braids. You should get the braids." He doesn't like my natural hair. I know he doesn't like it. I don't care. He just was going on about it. Oh, you should do all the styles, and I'm like, okay, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, yeah, but he doesn't like it. You know what I mean? But yeah, with the hair thing, it's real. I think that a lot of people are more comfortable, especially in retail, because
Yeah.
I was just in Texas. I was visiting one of my best girlfriends. She's got a daughter who's 17. She's got the braids, and these girls, I mean, they go to work. It's like, what are you wearing? You know,
Hmm.
they can basically, she's in retail, works for a clothing retailer, and they can wear crop tops, they can wear anything, you know.
Anything.
So things are definitely changing, and I feel like these kids, it's like biases, racism. What do you mean? They're like completely confused. They're like they haven't experienced it yet. So I guess that's a good sign. You know, I know you have children. I don't know if they feel that there in Canada, but um I
It
never,
differs. I think
yeah,
it differs. Sorry, like it differs because I think like with my kids, I've tried not to like deflect my experiences on them per se, but I've also tried to make sure that their eyes are open.
right,
And to feel free to communicate when they are feeling disrespected or uncomfortable. Also giving them the right to say, like, I don't have to stay in this situation. And I think this younger generation has kind of taken that, paid that step forward for that. Like, when I was growing up, there's things where I just accepted it because I just assumed that this is what everybody else is accepting. Don't be too loud, don't cause too much of a wave in the water, right?
right.
Whereas this next generation is just like, well, I don't like it and I'm not doing it, and you can't talk to me that way. And so I think there is like a little bit more of a difference in it, but unfortunately there is still a lot of space for growth and improvement in retail. um the dynamics when you look at like how many black women are in more corporate positions, and what their voices are, like actual voices are. um I wish I could say that there has been like even a 50% hit up from like the 20 years that I've been in retail, but I haven't. Like it's still a very small handful of women, and I say women, there are some men, but like women in particular, and their voices come with a chokehold, like literally a chokehold. And um yeah, like
Do you,
we hope for the best, but
yeah. Um, do you feel like you are able to fully express yourself in your current retail position? Because even as we sit on this podcast right now, right? I had a comment that I shared with you about I was being nasty nice. I was kind of tiptoeing around white people, right? And am I fully expressing myself
mhm,
because I'm not like going hard and all in on these people? Am I fully expressing myself? I feel like I am for what it is today as we record this video in 2025. But I think about it, right? I think about, and I'm not like I'm a shit talker in life, like I talk more shit on a personal level, obviously, than I would probably come in and do on these videos. But even with this whole podcast and this platform, I ask myself, do I want to put it on LinkedIn? Right? Because I
mhm,
still have a whole business where I have white clients all over the place, right? And do I want to isolate them, or or have them think that there's a problem that I have with them, in an effort to uplift Black women. So, am I fully able to express myself? Yeah, I think so, but I think about it, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I have not put the podcast on LinkedIn, and I don't know that I will put the podcast. People will see it because it's tied to Aaron Braxton, but I know that's where I'm standing right now because I have all sorts of clients, and my business, The Rebel Geek, is not solely African American directed. It's for everybody. But do you feel like in your business that you're able to fully express yourself? I mean, when I last saw you, you didn't have braids. Obviously you can wear braids at work now and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But do you feel like you're able to express yourself more than Nadine could when she was ready to jump over that counter and get old girl all the way together?
I will say yes. I do feel there is more of a space for me to do so. Um, but also I think that I'm in a stage in my life where, to be quite frank, I don't care if you
Yeah.
don't like it. I really don't. And like I said, like I have enough skill set that if it's not going to be this path, it will be another. I don't have to walk with you holding my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I take my hat off to those who are still fighting the good fight. But I think in this space in my life, I'm not doing that anymore.
Right.
I I am very careful, yes, about what I say, but it's only because I don't believe that I should have to uplift one, or tear down one to uplift the other. Right.
Absolutely.
So, if I'm making a comment about my experience, that's my experience. It doesn't mean that I believe that, throw away the whole race, throw away the whole country. Right. But that's my experience. That's my truth. And that's a part of my voice. Right. And you have a right to make a comment, just like you have a right to change the channel. Like, walk away from me.
Right.
Right.
Just go away. Don't
um,
care.
Right? You don't have to stay, but that also applies to me. And that's one of the best things about regaining back that power is like identifying. And I think you had a guest that had spoke about this before. What they were saying that like, I'm going to choose what and how I'm going to absorb this information and how I'm going to release it back because you're not going to take away my next step from me. You're not going to take away the benefits of what I have from me. Right? That's my power. That's not yours. And so in my current retail space, it is for the most part a very open space to work at, but it
Mhm.
still has some growth that it needs to, work through, and that's fine. It is what it is. But I don't feel like I have to be battling all the time. I don't
Right.
feel that constant attack. I do feel supported. Um, if I do need to make a comment or if there's something that's happening that I'm uncomfortable with, I know who to go to. Unfortunately, that company that I had started with was a small company, so there wasn't like, in all honesty, there was no HR.
Right.
So there was no one for me to call. Like I
Nobody
literally
to
had
complain
direct.
to.
Yeah, I would call them. I'd be calling literally the owner, right?
Yeah.
And he was so busy trying to figure out himself and grow and develop and make money. He didn't care about that little stuff for me, right? He wouldn't, right? Now we have people that we can go to. We have other avenues that we can take. Um, Also as a business owner, this is like my business, my companies has allowed me to realize that I can have the power to say yes and no to things, right? Um, if someone is attacking me racially, I don't have to work with you. I don't have to go in that, right? Like I said,
Right.
you could not ask for my assistance. I'm sure there are 50 million other candle companies, right?
Sure.
Great. You like my scent. You can still purchase my scent. We just have to talk about it, right?
Absolutely.
That's it. We don't talk about it. Right. So
Yeah.
I'm in that space now. And again, like those who have the energy to still fight it, please, by all means, continue your battle. Like, I tell this to the young girls at work sometimes. I'm like, hey, listen, you're there for it. It's the next generation's time. 100%. I just will not be re-educating someone who's in their 60s who still has the ability to access the resources to learn better and is choosing not to do better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe not everyone likes that. That's fine, right? To each his own. But I'm
Right.
just being straight up and honest. I'm not going to do that anymore. And if you don't want me in your space, I'm not fighting for that space either, hun. Like, why should I be somewhere where I'm not liked? You know?
To that point, so like going back to the Nadine who thought she had a friend in
Mhm.
her manager or coworker, and once, you kind of hit your breaking point, like, how would you have handled that differently? Like, if it were today, like, would you, I mean, because this is just to give this to somebody who, there are women who are our age who are still very fiery, and they are ready to cuss somebody out and get them told and all of that. Would you, you're not interested in educating, people are super grown out here, and I'm not here to like educate you. We had a guest that felt like, yeah, it's okay to educate if it's appropriate, right?
Yeah.
If it's appropriate, right? If you feel like it's going to, if they're open to it, right? Um,
Mhm.
there's that. But how would you handle it differently? Like then, do you feel like you would have, if this happened to you again today, you would stop them sooner, probably. No?
Yeah, yeah, exactly that. Honestly, I think that I wouldn't have allowed the snowball effect to happen. Like I look now, I can say, oh, there's opportunities where I could have spoke to her, cut certain conversations off. I think the results would have still been the same, to be honest with
Sure.
you. I do believe that she was showing who she was,
Yeah.
right? And but for my own sanity, I wish I did speak up a little bit earlier, that I used that voice a little bit earlier. But that's a part of our growing journey. We experience things and then we can later on use it. If I didn't have that experience then, I wouldn't know how to respond now, right? And luckily, I wasn't fired. And I say luckily I wasn't fired because that would have really been heartbreaking for me at that age to
Yeah.
have been fired because I spoke up, had my voice. It might have shut me down even more, to be honest with you.
Mm,
And so, what I do say again, like at this stage in my life, it's not that I'm not gonna, if you ask and you're open and I've communicated it to you and you're open, that's one thing. But I'm not gonna fight this big battle with you. We're not gonna do the back and forth. Okay, we're not
right.
going to do the back and forth. Experiences are experiences. Wrong is wrong. There are things you just cannot say. You're not going to come to me and say you're beautiful for a black woman. I
Right.
like that's not going to happen without me saying, "Am I beautiful or am I a black woman? What are you trying to get to?" Like you
Right.
could have
Right.
not said anything at all, right?
Right.
You don't need to come and touch my hair and be like, "Is this yours?" Why do you need to know that? Is there a reason why you felt the need to ask me if it's mine? Do you have a compliment? Or do you want an education training here? What is it that you're asking? I do. Those are conversations I have 100%. And it happens. I literally had someone the other day say the same thing to me. She was like, "Oh my gosh, is that your hair?" Because I've never seen it like that. And I was like, what are you coming to? Like, what is it that you want to know exactly? And she's like, "Oh, it looks nice." And I said, "Okay. So a compliment is a compliment. You could
Right.
just say your hair looks nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's it."
That's
And I
nice.
left her right there. Right.
How'd she
So
react to that? What'd she say?
she was startled and she was like, "Oh," and I said to her, I go, "I get it, but if you have a compliment, you don't need to know if it's mine or not. Does it look good or not? That's all." Like literally, if I see any other race, I could just go and be like, "Oh my gosh, your hair looks nice." I don't have
Right.
to go into it if it's theirs, how they did it. If I want
Mm-hmm.
to know a hairdresser, I can ask, "Do you have a hairdresser?" But I
Right.
don't need to go in depth with that stuff, right?
No.
So that's where I definitely will be like, "Hey, what are you asking?" Right? And that's
Mm,
me testing the water. Because if you're just like, "Well, most black girls don't have the," we ain't talking then. Because
yeah.
you done crossed that line. Am I good? You already have in your head what you really want to say. So be it. But if you're like, "You know what? I just think it's really nice." Okay, cool, girl. Just say you think it's nice.
Yeah.
We can keep moving.
I
That's
like
it.
that. I like that.
Mhm.
What do you, I want to ask you this. What is your stance on friends in the workplace as a black woman? Because I mean, we touched on it a little bit. I I have thought I had friends in the workplace, and I was gone from those jobs before I was like, that was not my
Mhm.
friend.
Yeah.
What's your thought on that? I mean, how do you handle that? Because it's hard. You're at work all the time, most of your time.
Yeah. It is very hard. I will say, like, years later, I struggled with developing relationships in the workplace, for multiple reasons, not just because of like racism. There also was like power dynamics. I moved into management, and so unless you are building that relationship with your management team, it's really hard to keep, I guess, those who are working for you and with you. You got to
Hmm.
kind of keep everything at a bay. right?
Right.
And so that was something that I struggled with for a while. A lot of my friends or friendships that I've developed in the workplace have happened after I've left the job.
Okay.
Yeah. So I might have like worked with them and then we realized we had some similar things, but our relationship was based off of the job. And then later on, when maybe one of us left, we might keep in contact and then we rebuild from our actual interests. Um, and that doesn't work for everybody. I get it. Some people like it's easy for them. I don't find it easy to build relationships in my workplace as much. I'm very cordial, but I do tend to like to leave my work at work and
Yeah.
uh my personal life to my personal life.
Do you
And
have
that just works for me.
recommendations for Black women on friends in the workplace? Because as we have these discussions, like new things come up that I have stories about, right? And I'm like, yeah, friends in the workplaces. Yeah. Like a lot of Black women go to work and they are just like, I am not your friend. I'm not trying to be
Yeah,
friends. I'm very clear about that. And a lot of times I believe it's white women who take offense to it because they want to be friends. Is it authentic? I don't
no.
know. Yeah, so so do you have recommendations on that? Because that's a good one to give to some of our listeners if you have any recommendations on the boundaries around friendships.
Chip. Yeah. Honestly, like that right there is a whole nother session, girl,
It
because
really is. It is.
um
I'm like, this is
I
another episode. I'm gonna do it, right? I'm gonna
yeah,
do it. That's a
you
whole
need
nother
to.
round table. Okay. I've got some round tables coming.
You definitely
Okay.
need to, because like I said, like I have friendships that like later on have like flourished and they're amazing and they're with other Black women. But those are women who were open to being friendly. Okay.
Right.
And I'm trying to be really nice about this because I know that it might be sensitive for some people, but like you could not necessarily have a tight relationship with everyone. Okay, you don't have to have a tight relationship with everyone without being angry, right? Like, don't
Uh-huh.
be angry because someone wants to be friends with you or wants to develop something with you. And don't be paranoid. Don't think that everyone's coming for you. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think that sometimes, and that's from my experience that I've always felt like where some Black women are just like, I don't want to be nobody's friend. I don't care about this. I don't care about you, her, the other. Like, they come in so angry and aggressive. And it probably from something that's occurred before. It
Oh,
probably
wait.
is.
Well, that angry and aggressive girl, that's tough. Those are fighting words. Like, like
They are. But
yeah,
you know
so like
what?
God.
Towards another Black woman, though, like when I'm saying that, like as one Black woman to another, we don't have to like, kiki about our personal life, right? But let's at least try and support and uplift each other in these spaces because the other races, the other cultures, they're doing that, right? And they're watching us stay divided, right?
Right.
And somehow they're able to kiki with you and kiki with her, but you can't kiki with me. Like we need to have a balance there, right?
Yeah.
And so again, I'm somebody who, yeah, I'm not really too big on like I'm not gonna go partying with all the people that I work with, right?
Right.
But like if you're like, hey, Nadine, I'm not too sure how to do ABCD, I'm not gonna side eye you either. I'm not gonna let you fall. If you're doing something wrong, I don't have to come and attack you about it, but I can say, hey girl, or if I'm trying to be professional, I want to code switch, I
Right.
would be like, are you sure that this is the proper way for doing it? Let's look at some other options and methods. Do you know what I mean? So just keeping that balance for yourself. You know, I know that word. I know aggressive is a really big thing, and
Yeah.
especially in the work culture, like we do get labeled as being aggressive.
Yeah.
But I've also experienced what that's like, and it's a hurt person. It's 100% someone who's hurt who has really had to fight for so long, right? And they are tired. They're 100% tired, right? And that's why I said, like, just give yourself that balance. Give
Yeah.
yourself that breathing space, right? Take a breath because you deserve it. You are talented and nobody can take what you initially have no matter what, right? So don't look at that other person as a rival, right?
A
Don't,
threat. Yeah.
yeah, don't
It's
look
like
at them as that.
crabs in a bucket, and I think a lot of times we've had that mentality, no matter how often I get hurt or played, even in love, I feel
Mhm.
like I have a positive outlook. It's not hardened me to the point of not wanting to interact or engage.
Yeah.
Um, Even with people in work relationships, I'm still very open to it, but I can understand when you have been hurt, because it really, it
Mhm.
boils down to that. You've been hurt, you've been betrayed in other workspaces, and you know, I have a relative, I'll just say that, who who doesn't get high marks because they're not friendly to
Mhm.
their coworkers, even though they're friendly enough, but do we have to be best friends? Is
It's
this a, is this a problem? It is a problem sometimes, and people make it a
mhm.
problem, and they cause the Black woman problems because she doesn't want to intermingle that
Yeah.
personal and that professional. She wants to do her job and she wants to go home. I've been very personal and open to whom I thought were friends in the workplace, white women, and looking back on it, I feel like was totally betrayed. They were
Yeah.
throwing me under the bus and all of the things. So yeah, that's why I wanted to get your perspective on it. And I have seen Black women come in, and I get it. I was like, I don't mess with you. I don't wanna come in here and deal with y'all because I don't know who I can trust. So I'm just I choose to trust no one.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but I know you don't have that type of personality, but you know, as we get older, we do learn to boundary up, um, to protect ourselves in these environments. And sometimes it doesn't matter how much you protect yourselves, you're still a target. And, you know,
Yeah, things will happen. It will
yeah,
happen. And as I said, like give yourself a moment, even like forgiving yourself for the moments that have happened. If you felt like, I wish I said this, and again, these are learning experiences. Give yourself some sort of forgiveness. You can trust yourself again. Now that you've experienced it, you can see differently, right? Like every experience allows like another opening for you. So you can, whatever you were shielded by before, it won't be the same. Like you said, like
right.
I've had some relationships with some white counterparts where I was like, hey, like I thought it was going to be different. And it did not work out the way I thought it was going to. If
Yeah, and that's
I,
okay.
yeah, it's, yeah. And if I held on to that, every white woman that I worked with, I'd be like, oh, like,
Yeah.
I was like, no. And I work around a lot of white women. What am I going to do? Right. I'm just not going to kiki with you like that. But like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you just said boundary up. That's literally what it is. Like, we're going to move in that direction. But I just believe like, you don't have to be angry with everyone. Um, I guess again, like not so suspicious of everybody as much. And based on character, like
Mm-hmm.
you can. I mean, we already know there's moments where you're like, something about that one doesn't feel right to me,
Yeah.
right? And that can happen 100%. I'm not saying it doesn't, right? But you can't be angry with everyone because of that one, right? And that's one thing I will say. It's funny because you just said like, some people don't get the movement or the grades that they want because of the fact that they're not as friendly. I had that happen with a coworker where she was pretty much put to the side because she was told that she doesn't smile enough. And like that was crazy for me because I was just like, I mean, she does a great job. She does an amazing job, and she's a hard worker.
Yeah.
And she doesn't smile because she's so focused, right?
Right.
But when
Yeah.
you
She's
talk
not
to her,
thinking
she's
about
friendly.
smiling. Yeah.
Yeah, she's just thinking about the next task and she got to get it done, and she's so open for growth and all that, and that was what their focus was about the smiling. And again, like, I mean, we can go on forever with these things, right? So I do see how that could be flipped, but I just think within us as a Black women, right, when you do see another Black woman coming in, just don't feel so attacked, or again that you're versing this person, right? Because it may not be anything like that at all.
Yeah.
Pay forward for the next. Let's give each other thought.
Yeah. I think the term, and we're using angry, and the reason I'm sensitive about that as well.
Mhm.
It's not so much as angry, but it's guarded. Maybe it's defensive for
Yeah.
good reason, right? Um, because yeah, people could say you're angry just because they say it all the time about us, you know what I'm saying? So I think,
Yeah, you're right. You're
yeah,
right. 100% guarded. I will use that word because it's true.
yeah,
You
yeah,
don't have
because
to be
like,
so guarded.
so like one of my friends said, she said when you're loud, and when she says they called her loud and aggressive or something, and I did the podcast about her, but she's like, I'm passionate, I'm not
Yes.
aggressive, I'm passionate, right? And anytime we show passion and we get upset, we're labeled as angry. And we're already Black women, we're dark-skinned Black women,
Hmm.
so our passion, our emotion comes off on the darker side, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Oh my gosh, yes, yes. You hit it
Yeah,
on the nail there.
yeah.
A moment just like flipped to my head where I had someone say that a white coworker was like a black woman because she was loud. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, she's so loud. She's like black woman. Like she's almost like a black woman. I was like, why? Why is that associated? And then me, exactly what you said, like speaking, if I speak and I am like to the point and I'm communicating my facts, all of a sudden I'm angry, I'm aggressive, I'm loud, I'm yelling, and I'm like, I'm actually just passionate,
Just
right?
passionate.
And that's it. So you're 100% right. Like you hit it on the nail. Like it is the guarded part that I would say to
Hmm.
beware of, and not even beware of. Just I guess it's more so like, well, yeah, self-awareness, carrying that self-awareness of that guard. And we could check ourselves. I think that's where we also kind of feel attacked is when someone thinks that we can't check ourselves, right? Like, that we're just doing things for the sake of doing it or because we're just black women that are angry, right?
And if we were so angry, why does everybody want to be around us? Why does
Right,
everybody
that's
want to
it.
be us? Like, come
Thank you.
on.
Mimic,
Like
right? Yeah.
that's just a word that they use to try to label us, right? But no, no.
No, and yeah, it's the guarding. You're right,
Yeah.
and I think more so towards each other.
No,
So when
I've
I'm
met
saying
some
this,
angry Black women, of course. They are
yeah,
there. I know what you're trying to say,
yeah, no,
but
but just towards each other, I would say like
yes.
just kind of like and so and again like coming from the retail industry, there's been times where I was just like so excited to see another black woman in the space that I was
Yeah.
entering in, just like literally, I took this job because I saw you in the background
Yeah.
somewhere. And I'm so excited to like connect with you. And you're just like, who the heck is she? Like,
Yeah.
and like almost you might as well just tell me to F off, like, because that's what you pretty much are saying. And I'm just like, I just wanna be in your space. Like we're black women, we're beautiful, melanin everywhere. And you're just
We're skeptical. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. We're so
yeah,
skeptical. Like, we gotta, like, I don't know you yet. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, when I
But
get
I'm
to
just
know you,
like,
I'm cool. But like
yeah, I'm
until that day
just like
comes,
introduce yourself, like, you know what I mean? Because then again, we're looking at the other counterparts that are like, they're giving that friendliness, right? And
yeah.
so we think, and this you said, like, we think that we have it one way with them and we don't,
But
right?
they're
And
giving that, but it's not authentic.
it's
That the
not
one thing
exactly.
Black women, well, you can count on them for authenticity. So
Yeah,
those other ones that give us like, oh my God, hey, oh my God, is that real? Some bullshit,
no,
right?
no, it's not. So, but yeah, I think again, like my experiences they varied throughout the years. There has been progression in retail. There's still space for growth.
Yes.
And I'm not here by default. Like I still love working in my stores. I've worked for a lot of luxury companies over the
Hmm.
years. I've worked for a lot of small businesses still. I've opened up small stores. And it hasn't scared me away from the industry. Like I said, I'm going to be here whether you like me or not. So
Love that. Well, last question, because I know we gotta go. What advice would you give to younger Black women or any Black woman who is interested in entering the retail space? A lot of times they say
hmm,
retail is dying. I don't know. Like, I feel like maybe, but still people like to come and go shopping. They like to come and have those experiences. So what advice would you give Black women who want to enter the retail space? Any wisdom that you can share?
funny enough, no one's ever asked me that question. Like you putting me on the spot for real. Um, Honestly, I say, if if fashion is something that you enjoy, just know that retail is a stepping stone. Okay, so it doesn't have to be the be all end all for you. um you know, build yourself your own personal goals. Don't wait for anyone else to tell you where you're going to go next. You make that happen for you. Okay, and I say this to everyone in all honesty, but I'm speaking to Black women in particular, right? Don't allow others to tell you that it stops here. Okay, it
Right.
doesn't have to. If you know, if you're starting off as a sales associate and you want to be a store manager, I'll tell you, I told one of my managers, and it was a Black man too, I said, my goal is to be where you're sitting and for you to be at the next level that you need to be so I can get there.
You know what
Right.
though? You say it, but does he know that?
Well,
Does
he knew
he
it.
know that he
He
he needs to be in the
did.
next level? Okay.
He did. And that's the thing. And those are the moments where I'm proud to say that I spoke for myself, right? I spoke up for myself and I let him know that. And he was like, whoa, nobody's ever said that to me.
Yeah.
Right. Now he started thinking, he's like, well, I want to be district. And if I now have a successor that I know wants to be there, right, I can work with her. And so I think that's the thing, like, just communicating what it is that you want for yourself in this industry. And again, it's such a wide range. You
Yeah.
know, I did sales, I did management, I did training, I did merchandising. It's massive, right? So don't limit yourself in the
Yeah.
industry. And then I'm also really big on owning your own business. Like, if you're just like, you know what, I can do this better, then do it. Get out there, figure it out. I mean, there's so many tools now that we have
Yeah.
that can expand you in those ways. Maybe this is an introduction for you so that you can be in the environment, but it doesn't have to be the end.
I love that because in retail, you're exposed to so many different businesses. It's kind of like the best place to be to kind of figure out like where you want to go. You get to see like all these different brands and companies and people come in and you get to see what's going on and it could spark creativity and ideas within you. So I'm listening to you talk and I'm like, yeah, I did a little retail back in the day, but yeah, you can really get some ideas. It's a
Yeah.
good jumping off point. So
It is. It's a tester field. I say anyone could go into retail at one point as a tester to kind of see, like, you could be going to school to be a doctor and you're working part-time in like a clothing store. So it's a great tester field, but it's also like a massive industry that can bring you to so many different places.
well, Nadine, I just want to thank you so much for being a guest on the Coffee No Cream podcast today. You have shared some really good information. Tell everybody where they can find you. Social media, your website. Where can they find you?
Well, you can find me across the board, Pretty Girls Closet, The Pretty Girls Closet, on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok. But you can find my candle business on House of Foster. I do have a website. It's called House of Foster at Big Cartel, where you can find all my beautiful scented candles. And then also, since we are on the no coffee no cream episode, I'm going to do a coupon code. The coupon code will be coffee. And if you go on, you'll be able to get a 15% discount.
Nice.
Yeah, 15%, you guys, and some beautiful candles. So check out that website again. It's House of Foster at Big Cartel.
Very, very nice. Well, Nadine, thank you so, 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 so much. And thank you everyone for watching. And we will see you in the next episode.